Recorded Books and RB Digital present A Blessing and a Curse by ReShonda Tate Billingsley and Victoria Christopher Murray. Narrated by Patricia R. Floyd. Chapter 1. Rachel Jackson Adams. I think Jasmine is your sister. Rachel Jackson Adams cocked her head, to the left, then the right. She studied her father, zoning in to see if his eyes were dilated, his speech slurred. Something. It was obvious her father was on the brink of a stroke since he was uttering complete nonsense. Jasmine? As in Jasmine, all those last names, Jasmine? Rachel asked her father. Maybe he'd been outside working in his garden. The Houston heat was enough to make anyone delirious. She only has one more name than you. Okay, Dad, you've got jokes. Rachel stood up from her spot on the sofa where she'd been sitting with her father watching their now defunct reality show, First Ladies. When she'd walked into his house this afternoon, she'd been shocked to see that he'd had that show on, again. When Rachel had joined the reality show on the OWN network last year, she had dreams of syndication, endorsement deals, and becoming a household name. Not to mention that she'd mapped out how she had planned to take Gail's place as Oprah's BFF. They'd only done one season of the show. Reality TV had proven to be too much for even Rachel, who considered herself a reformed drama queen. But her father, the Reverend Simon Jackson, was watching that show like it was the only thing on TV. Really, Dad? Rachel asked, grimacing as she looked at the TV. It was the scene where she, Jasmine, and Rachel's husband's one-time mistress, Mary, had visited a church for Women's Day, and Rachel had been forced to deliver a word. For some reason, Rachel had drawn a blank, so she just started reciting her favorite song lyrics. It had been the most embarrassing thing ever. I like this show, Simon said, finally smiling after delivering his cockamamie announcement. Wait, here comes the part where you talk about if loving God is wrong, you don't want to be right. Rachel rolled her eyes. I'm glad you find it amusing. He chuckled. I thought you were going to break out with meeting in the ladies' room next. Back to this sister madness. Rachel picked up the remote and pressed pause. The television froze with Rachel's mouth wide open in the middle of a sentence. She shook her head at the image. Ugh. Then she pushed the button to turn the TV off altogether. I know you think I'm talking crazy. Simon's tone was serious again. You are. She tossed the remote back on the table. No, he said, scooting to the edge of his seat. Simon began sifting through a bunch of photos strewn all over the coffee table. Rachel hadn't given them a second glance until now. Why do you have all of these pictures out? She picked one up. I was looking for something. Oh, my God, Rachel said, laughing as she looked at the picture. Is this you? She turned the tattered black and white photo of a much skinnier Simon Jackson in a multicolored button-down shirt and bell-bottom jeans. Look at that afro. I was Superfly, he replied, as he continued to sift through the pictures. Where's Mom? Rachel said, leaning over to peer at the piles. While she had given her mother, Loretta, major grief in her teen years, Rachel loved her something fierce. She'd died when Rachel was just 19, and her father had married his current wife, Brenda, shortly after. But Rachel's love for her mother had never wavered. I want to see some pictures of her. You can go through the pictures later. I need to talk to you about Jasmine.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?